Hey friends, this is Nate Nims from Grace Des Moines with Leo, and this afternoon I was thinking of things that you could do if you have kids at home or if you just want to get out of the house and are in the Grace neighborhood. There's a couple things that you might consider. So in our preschool windows, at all of the Grace preschool windows, there are little stuffed animals that are peeking out and trying to see their friends. So maybe you can walk by the church if you want to get out and stretch your legs a little bit and see some of those friends in the windows. And while I was down in the preschool putting those friends out so they could look and meet their friends and see them from a distance, I grabbed one of my favorite books when I was a kid. So I figured I would read this morning or this afternoon and share this book with you all. And if you have any kids that want to borrow it or just want to hear me read it, you can. But this was my favorite book when I was young. It's The True Story of the Three Little Pigs by A. Wolf. Everyone knows the story of the Three Little Pigs, or at least they think they do. But I'll tell you in on a little secret. Nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of this story. I am the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. I don't know how this big bad wolf thing got started, but it's all wrong. Maybe it's because of our diet. And hey, it's not our fault that wolves eat cute little animals like bunnies and sheep and pigs. That's just the way it is. If cheeseburgers were cute, folks would probably think that you were big and bad too. But like I was saying, the whole big bad wolf thing is all wrong. The real story is about a sneeze and a cup of sugar. This is the real story. One day, once upon a time, I was making a birthday cake for my dear old granny, and I had a terrible sneezing cold, and I ran out of sugar. So I walked down the street to ask my neighbor for a cup of sugar. Now this neighbor was a pig, and he wasn't too bright either. He had built his whole house out of straw. Can you believe it? I mean, who in their right mind would build a house out of straw? So of course, the minute I knocked on the door, it fell right in. I didn't just walk into someone else's house. So I called out, little pig, are you in?" There was no answer. I was just about to go home without the cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. Then my nose started to itch. I felt a sneeze coming on, and well, I huffed and I snuffed and I sneezed a great sneeze. And you know what happened? The whole darn house of straw fell down. Right in the middle of the pile of straw, there was the first little pig, dead as a doornail. He had been home the whole time. It seemed like a waste to leave that perfectly good ham dinner lying there in the straw, so I ate it up. Think of it as a cheeseburger lying there. I was feeling a little better, but I still didn't have my cup of sugar, so I went to the next neighbor's house. This neighbor was the first little pig's brother. He was a little bit smarter, but not much. He had built a house out of sticks. I rang the bell on the stick house, and nobody answered. I called, little pig, are you in?" He yelled back, "Go away, wolf, you can't come in. I'm shaving the hairs of my chinny chin chin." I had just grabbed the doorknob and I felt another sneeze coming on. I huffed and I snuffed and I tried to cover my mouth, but I sneezed a great sneeze. And you're not going to believe this, But this guy's house fell down on him just like his brother's. When the dust cleared, the second pig was there, dead as a doornail. Wolf's honor. Now, you know how food will spoil if you just leave it out in the open, so I did the only thing that there was to do. I had dinner again. Think of it as a second helping. Now, I was getting awfully full, but my cold was feeling better. And I still didn't have that cup of sugar for my dear old granny's birthday cake. So I went to the next house. This guy was the first and second little pig's brother. And he must have been the brains of the family because his house was built of bricks. I knocked on the brick house. No answer. I called, Mr. Pig, Mr. Pig, are you in? And do you know how that little rude porker answered? Get out of here, wolf. Don't bother me again. Talk about impolite. He probably had a whole sack of sugar, and he wouldn't even give me one little cup for my dear sweet old granny's birthday cake. What a pig! I was just about to go home and make a nice birthday card instead of a cake when I felt my cold coming on. And I huffed, and I snuffed, and I sneezed again. And then the little pig said, and your old granny, she can go sit on a pin. Now, I'm usually a pretty calm fellow, but when someone talks to my granny like that, I go a little crazy. When the cops drove up, of course I was trying to break down the pig's door. The whole time I was huffing and puffing and sneezing and making a real scene. That's when the news reporters found out about the two other pigs that I had had for dinner. They figured a sick guy going to borrow a bag of sugar, a cup of sugar even, didn't sound very interesting. They jazzed the story up with all that huff and puff and I'll blow your house down, and they made me the big bad wolf. That's it. That's the real story. I was framed. But maybe, could you loan me a cup of sugar? That was one of my favorite books when I was a kid. So if you have a kid in your life, I hope they enjoy that book too. And I think one of the morals of this story is, if you're gonna sneeze, cover your nose. That's what we can learn from this. So, again, if you want to get out and walk around the church, we've got some stuffed animal friends looking out the window so you can see if you can find them all. And then maybe another way you could reach out to your neighbors or have some fun is with kids is taking some chalk and writing on the sidewalk and saying hi to your friends and neighbors that way. So thank you for joining me for this story. We'll do this again sometime. Leo burrowed under the... Oh, there he just popped his head out, so maybe you can see him in the corner. But we'll have story time again, and sometime you'll get to see more of Leo too. So thank you for joining me.